would abide by that ruling. The administration has appealed the district court decision and said it would request a direct Supreme Court review. So can the Trump administration deport DACA recipients, and have any been deported? Under DACA, any deportation action is deferred. However, DACA status can be revoked. USCIS data show that there were 820 terminations in fiscal year 2017 due to convictions or arrests, and another 20 terminations related to gang membership or affiliation. USCIS notes that deferred action under DACA does not confer legal status upon an individual and may be terminated at any time, with or without a notice of intent to terminate at DHS's discretion. One DACA recipient who was deported dropped his court case against the federal government, and another who was stripped of DACA status had that status reinstated. The ACLU has filed a class action lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing it has a practice of unlawfully and arbitrarily revoking DACA grants and work authorizations based on unproven allegations or low-level offenses such as traffic violations that do not disqualify the individual from the program. In an interview with CBS News, DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen said that Immigration and Customs Enforcement wouldn't prioritize the removal of DACA recipients. Quote, if you are a DACA that's compliant with your registration, meaning you haven't committed a crime, you, in fact, are registered. You're not a priority of enforcement for ICE should the program end, Nielsen said in the January 16 interview. And finally, what are the legislative proposals in Congress regarding DACA? Well, several bills have been proposed in Congress to create a path to legal status for DACA recipients and others who were brought to the United States illegally as children. The Migration Policy Institute estimates that under 5 proposals, there would be between 1.6 million and 3.6 million eligible for conditional legal status, and between 1.3 million and 3.6 million eligible to obtain lawful permanent resident status. The high-end estimate, however, is for a Democratic bill, while the other proposals are either bipartisan or from Republicans. A bill proposed by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham and Democratic Senator Richard Durbin would enable an estimated 2.14 million to be eligible for conditional legal status and 1.73 million to qualify for lawful permanent resident status. Those eligible would include those who entered the U.S. at age 17 or younger and who have been continuously present in the U.S. for 4 years before enactment of the bill. So that's the general outline of where we stand on DACA at the moment. And I thought that was useful to read because it kind of gives the whole picture in a way. And one fact that I want to point out is that the DREAM Act, and when we're talking about dreamers, we're talking about a population that is much larger than DACA holders. If you noticed in that last article, the conditions for DACA were very, very specific. They had to be born at a certain date, had to come here at a certain time, in between this time and that time, and lived here this long and done this stuff. You know, it was all just very specific, whereas dreamers generally are a much larger population. And there are a lot of people, a whole lot of people, that came here as children who were not eligible for DACA, but basically are in the same basically in the same sort of state or same kind of condition. They've lived here pretty much all their lives, or all their conscious life anyway, and this is their country. This is the place that they know. But they maybe weren't in school, maybe they were working a job under the counter. A lot of people who needed jobs or wanted jobs got them using fake Social Security numbers, and because of that, it was kind of iffy. If they got caught with that, then they were definitely not eligible for DACA, so on and so forth. I'm having trouble talking today. So on and so forth. So there were any number of people who really should be here. They really should have some kind of status, but they couldn't with that particular program. So that's just something to be aware of. And, you know, it's just for the record here, it's not just Hispanic, Latino, Latina, however you like to characterize people. Trump seems to think that everybody's from south of the border and somehow, you know, they just shouldn't be here because they're from one of those countries that he doesn't like. But there are a lot of people who have some kind of immigration problem and are having trouble these days, and they're not just from those countries. So I have a couple articles here. I'll read you really quickly that point out that problem. This one's from NPR entitled "Undocumented Irish Caught in Trump's Immigration Dragnet." So the Trump administration has been aggressively deporting foreign nationals home around the globe, from Somalia to Slovakia. Though Mexicans, Central Americans, and Haitians make up 9 out of 10 people removed from the United States, year-end figures analyzed by NPR show that deportations to the rest of the world have jumped 24%. Some are from formerly recalcitrant countries that used to reject U.S. deportees but have now agreed to take them. Those nations include Guinea, Cuba, Bangladesh, Iraq, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. Moreover, agents with immigration and customs enforcement are arresting more immigrants in the interior of the U.S. who have overstayed their visas. Case in point, the unauthorized Irish in Boston. It's really indiscriminate. ICE, in their aggressive tactics of detention, are going after the Irish as much as they're going after any other nationality, says Ronnie Miller, director of the Irish International Immigrant Center in Boston. Sitting in the visiting room of the Suffolk County House of Corrections, Dylan O'Riordan, 19, wears a lemon-yellow jail jumpsuit and a bewildered expression on his pale face. I was aware how with Trump immigration was going to get a lot harder, but I didn't pay as much mind to it as I should have, which was my first mistake, he says. O'Riordan was born in Galway, Ireland. Both his parents had lived in Massachusetts before he was born and already had green cards. They brought Dylan from Ireland to Boston area in 2010 on the visa waiver program. He was 12 years old. He overstayed his 90 days and began living his life like any other American teenager, though he was unauthorized. At 19, he had a child with his girlfriend, Brenna, then dropped out of high school and went to work for his uncle's roofing company. About 4 months ago, he and Brenna were shopping at a mall when they got into an argument. Brenna denied she was assaulted. It was nothing at all, he says. Some women called the cops, said I was abusing my girlfriend. O'Riordan was arrested for domestic assault and battery, but Brenna denied she had been assaulted. The county chose not to prosecute. O'Riordan had no prior criminal record, so the judge let him go. Then, when he was walking out of the holding cell, ICE agents were waiting for him. Someone in the courthouse had tipped them off. He has been locked up for 4 months now. Visitors from some countries with good U.S. relations don't need visas, but they're at a disadvantage compared with immigrants who illegally cross border. They don't have a right to an immigration hearing if they stay past 90 days. O'Riordan's lawyer, Tony Marino, points out that his client was brought here when he was a child, but ICE won't budge. Their position has been, well, he waived whatever rights he had when he came, says Marino. 12-year-olds don't waive rights. I've never seen anything like it. I can't wrap my head around it. The ICE office in Boston sent a statement to NPR. Quote, Dylan O'Riordan overstayed the terms of his admission by more than 7 years. ICE deportation officers encountered him in September 2017 after he was arrested on local criminal charges. ICE served him with his administrative final order of removal. He is scheduled to be put on a plane to Dublin later this week. O'Riordan is not an isolated case. Irish visa overstayers have been swept up in the administration's nationwide immigration dragnet. Under strict new rules, anyone here illegally is a target, whether they're convicted of a crime or not. In 2017, ICE deported 34 undocumented Irish, up from 26 the year before. The numbers are tiny compared to the 128,765 Mexicans ejected from the country last year, but in Boston's close-knit Irish community, the wave of arrests is big news. Tommy O'Connor, a bartender at the Greenbrier Irish pub, says his undocumented Irish customers are wary these days. It makes everyday life more difficult, he says. For a simple traffic stop, they can be deported. He tells the story of a prominent local Irish immigrant, John Cunningham, who went on camera with an Irish TV crew last year talking about his fear of living illegally in Boston. Weeks later, ICE arrested him and sent him back to Ireland. It was a shock because it wasn't during a traffic stop. He was arrested in his home, O'Connor says. It means it could happen to anybody because he was a very well-known figure in the Irish community. Miller, director of the Irish International Immigrant Center in Boston, says the Irish immigrants are on high alert. They have no confidence that the color of their skin provides any protection for them, he says. O'Riordan didn't necessarily think being white would save him from deportation orders. He thought staying out of trouble would keep him under the radar. He says other detainees are surprised he was arrested. They're like, "Are you supposed to be here? You're basically American. You look American. You sound American." O'Riordan says he is confined with 150 other men in a section of the county jail contracted to ICE. There's a lot of people from El Salvador, a lot of Guatemalans, a couple of Haitian people, and I'm the only Irish in the whole facility. The Boston ICE office said in a statement its agents are indiscriminate in whom they arrest and deport. ICE is apprehending all those in violation of immigration laws regardless of national origin. Ireland estimates as many as 50,000 unauthorized Irish are living in the shadows in America. Their government is so concerned that the Prime Minister has appointed a member of Parliament, John Deasy, to be special envoy to the U.S. Congress. His mission is to work out an immigration earmark for the unauthorized Irish, to find them a pathway to citizenship and get more work visas. Fionnuala Quinlan, the Irish Consul General in Boston, says with the island's small population, there's hardly a family in Ireland that doesn't know of someone living illegally in the U.S. That's really why the government places such a strong emphasis on it, she says. We know the impact that living an undocumented life has on people not being able to go home for funerals or celebrations, the fear and isolation that can result from that. The Irish government is seeking a solution precisely because of painful cases like O'Riordan's. A month ago, he and Brenna were married in the jail chapel. She wasn't allowed to wear a wedding dress, so she donned jeans and a sweatshirt. He wore his jail clothes emblazoned with ICE. They were permitted to kiss and exchange rings engraved with "Forever Love." Brenna says she now plans to move to Ireland with their infant daughter, Delilah. She and Dylan hope their marriage will help him get a green card to return one day. Meanwhile, she says she is being forced out of her country just to be with her husband. So there's somebody that would almost undoubtedly certainly be a dreamer, but not a DACA recipient because he apparently never signed up for it. But anyway, one more quick one. This is from ABC News. It's entitled, "Doctor Who Came to U.S. as Child Jailed by Immigration Agents." So a Michigan doctor who came to the U.S. from Poland as a young child was in jail Monday, nearly a week after immigration agents arrested him at his home. It's not clear why Lukasz Niek, 43, Lukaz, L-U-K-A-S-Z, Lukaz Niek, I don't know. I'll start that over again. It's not clear why Lukaz Nies 43, was taken into custody last Tuesday. Niek is a legal U.S. resident who works at Bronson Methodist Hospital in Kalamazoo. He has 2 misdemeanor convictions from high school and an impaired driving conviction from 2008 that was later dismissed. The Associated Press sent an email Monday seeking comment from Immigration and Customs Enforcement. An automatic response said the agency's public affairs employees aren't working because of the government shutdown. His wife, Rachel Burkhart Nies, said he pleaded guilty in high school to malicious destruction of property and receiving stolen goods and was told the convictions wouldn't be used in a deportation. Kalamazoo County Court records show he pleaded guilty to an impaired driving offense in 2008. After completing probation, the conviction was set aside and case was dismissed as part of a plea agreement. A jury also acquitted him of a 2013 domestic violence charge. He's taken care of the people of the U.S. as a physician. He's taken care of the people of this community, she told MLive. After all this time, when is somebody finally free? Niek came to from Poland to the Detroit area when he was about 5 with his parents and sister. He has 1 daughter and his wife, another from previous relationships, and they married in July 2016. He cannot go back to Poland, a country he doesn't know, where he has no family, his sister told WOOD-TV. Both our parents passed away in the United States. He doesn't know anyone. He wouldn't know where to go. Bronson Healthcare, which owns the hospital where Niek works, released a statement saying it simply does not make sense to lock up a skilled and caring does not make sense to lock up a skilled and caring physician. Niek has been on the Bronson staff since 2007. So there's another person who not eligible for DACA, but for some reason is being sent away. And there's a lot of stories like that. But really it is the young people that I think are most affected by this. So yeah, sure, that is a strange thing, and this guy just out of nowhere, suddenly he's arrested and being sent away, and it's a horrible thing for him and his family. I don't mean to downplay it, but at least he's got an identity and a life and all these sorts of things. What is really hard is, like, imagine yourself being a young person. Maybe you're on DACA, maybe you're not, but you're seeing all this going on and you're asking yourself, well, what do I have to look forward to? What does my future hold for me? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I don't know what I can do. That has got to be incredibly difficult. And it's all so unnecessary. I don't have a lot of sympathy for any of the anti-immigrant arguments that I've ever heard. So it's difficult for me to say, well, I can see X or I can see Y. I'll go so far as to say I can see someone saying we need to secure our borders better, even though most of the people that come in are, they come in on a visa or whatever, they simply overstay their visa. So securing your border doesn't do anything about that sort of thing. I'm sorry, I'm really allergic to something in this room, and every time I come here, I turn into a snuffle monster. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'll try to snuff away from the microphone so you don't have to listen to it. Excuse me. So, and I lost my train of thought. No, what I was trying to say was, arguments can be made that, okay, a country needs, particularly in an era like this where terrorism is sort of an accepted method of attacking an enemy for a lot of people these days. It just seems to have gone from something that, it sort of goes in waves. There are periods where, groups rely on this sort of technique, and then that goes down and you don't see so much of it. But I guess as militaries have become more overwhelming in their ability to export power to certain places in certain ways, it's become less and less possible for someone to say, okay, I want to attack that country. We're going to invade the United States. It would be really hard for anybody to invade the United States. But if you hate us, for whatever reason, valid or not, and you wanted to attack the United States, the way you would probably do it would be through terrorism. You'd try to come here somehow and blow things up and terrify people and just basically express your disdain for this country in that way. So it does make sense. I mean, it might make sense to change the way that our country treats the rest of the world so that people don't hate us so much, but that's, that's a separate argument that could and should be made. But I'm just trying to give the anti-immigration forces something so I can say, okay, I concede that here is a point that you have. Because most of their points are not valid. They're not even honest. They're like, oh, well, they're taking our jobs. They lower our standard of living. They're altering our culture. They're, whatever. I don't buy any of that. Whatever changes are coming about as a result of immigrants coming here, they're not a bad thing. They're just what happens when you introduce new people to a place. Things change because there are new people there. It's not something to guard against. Growth is change. So I'm not buying that any of that is an adequate reason for being a hardliner on immigration. But let's say, for the sake of argument anyway, so I don't get myself all twisted up here. For the sake of argument, let's say that controlling one's borders makes sense. Having some notion who's coming in and out of your country and what they're coming in and out for, and being able to impose some kinds of regulations and rules about that. Let's say that makes some sense, that you can make an argument for that as being a good thing. That still doesn't mean that you have to go around and find people that have been here for a long time and get rid of them. That's not an aspect of controlling borders. These people are already here. We already have a criminal justice system to deal with people that break our laws. So if you, for example, somehow manage to put an impermeable border around the entire United States that no one could come in or out of without registering and being known and all that sort of thing. So let's say you absolutely finally secured the border all the way around. Nothing about that requires you to find people that are here now who do not have the proper documentation and force them to leave. There's no reason. It doesn't make any sense at all. So that's a separate issue. Then you're talking about some other reason why you think those people shouldn't be here. That has nothing to do with securing your borders. Has nothing to do with that. You could go around to every person in the United States, like when you do the census, and say, okay, whoever you are, you're here now, fine. We just want to know who you are. So in case you're not on our list somewhere, we want you on the list now. You could do that, and you could resolve any problems that could possibly arise from having people you don't know are here. So there's no excuse for going around and booting these people out, except that you just don't want foreigners here for some reason. You don't want these people from other countries to be in this country. That's the only thing I can think of. It doesn't make any other kind of sense. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't make anything better. This whole thing like, oh, that's amnesty. So what? What's wrong with that? Why is that a problem? Okay, they broke some law coming here or staying here or by being here. They've broken some law. So give them a fine. How about that? All right, everybody that's here right now that came in somehow when they weren't supposed to, some way they weren't supposed to come in and overstay their visa or whatever it is, you now owe a fine to the government to cover the cost of the paperwork necessary to put you in the system. Done. And you're done. You've dealt with it. You haven't disrupted their life. Oh, yeah, that's an expensive thing. Oh, it's a problem. But, hey, they broke the law. So make them pay a fine. Other than that, what problem is being solved by going around and snatching these people up randomly and tossing them out? Nothing. There is absolutely nothing. It is purely a reaction to us and them and somehow defining us as people who have citizenship and them as people who don't, and somehow saying they are less than us, they shouldn't be here, we should, et cetera, et cetera. There are plenty of citizens that would be nice if they weren't here, if they were somewhere else. I'll put it that way. There's plenty of people who are full-fledged American citizens who are obnoxious, who are criminal, who are awful people, whatever. You just deal with that. That's part of living with other people, is dealing with the good and the bad. You figure out a way to deal with that. So much of what's going on with our immigration system and the immigration arguments makes no sense at all. It's pointless. Let's have the argument about the necessity of controlling our borders. Let's have that argument. I'm perfectly ready to listen to reasons why the U.S. needs to control its borders and to have some say about who comes in the country. Sure, that is a perfectly good discussion to have. I can see pros and cons to that without even thinking very hard. But the people that are here, okay, they broke the law, they're illegal. They aren't illegal, but I'm borrowing terminology here. They are here illegally. So fine, let's give them a fine. Let's slap those wrists everywhere we go. Let's slap wrists all over the country and say, okay, you millions of people, we're going to slap your wrist and collect some money from you, and then we're going to put you on the official paperwork, and then don't do it again. And then you're done. That's all you have to do. And then you worry about, do you have that argument about controlling borders, and you figure out a way to do that? Not build a wall, that's stupid, but you do something, whatever that needs to be, so that you feel safe that scary bad people are not coming in without you knowing it, and you're done. That's the resolution to the immigration problem right there. That's all you need to do. Anyway, my time's up. I'm snuffling all over the place here. I don't know what I'm allergic to, but I'd like to get the heck out of this room and go back to where the air is free or clear or not full of whatever it is, dander. I don't know what it is. Anyway, thank you for listening. This has been CU Immigration here on WRFU-LP Urbana 104.5 FM. I've been your host. My name was Mr. Garza, and it still is, and it will be next time too. And until we see you again, I hope you have a great week. Bye-bye.